Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing. So today we're going to be opening one of two of the Commando decks that were released as part of the Zendikar Rising block. So I'll do one this week, one next week, and then when they're done, that should bring us up rather nicely around the time of Commander Legends, and we'll be opening some more product at that point. Hopefully some boosters and also the Commander decks that are released as part of that particular set release. So let's open up the Land's Wrath deck. Before we do that, let's have a look at the outside. It says there's one legendary foil. Choose your commander and overcome both friend and foe in this definitive multiplayer Magic format. Join forces with Obun and watch the land itself rise to defend your cause. The more lands you play, the more powerful your forces become. Obun Muldiah Ancestor, an ancient elf spirit of the Muldiah. Obun is more influential in death than he ever was in life. A leader among his people, he would do anything to protect them, backed up by a mastery of the forces of nature. So we have a 100 card deck with 3 new cards, a deck box, 10 double-sided token cards, plus a life wheel, a strategy insert and a reference card. I have deliberately not looked at all at the deck list, so I'm going into this blind, as I tend to like to nowadays. Just that, yeah, there you can see, so this is badged up as Zendikar Rising. I suspect the deck box isn't going to be anything spectacular. We'll see. Oh, crikey. I still find that this is rather excessive packaging for what it is. I suppose they had to fit this all in somehow. Just make sure that there's nothing lurking in any of these bits. I think this must be our... interesting. Don't see anything else in there. Oh, it's inside of here. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, this reminds me of the deck boxes they sort of had done previously. I'm just going to try something. This might actually... Okay, so that's interesting. So it looks like it will fit sleeved product. Okay, there's hope, yeah. So yep, definitely got space in there. So actually, let me just, I've got a sleeved commander deck to one side here. And these are proper sleeves. They're clear sleeves, but they are the they're not the tight fits, they're just a clear. Yeah, so that's a fully sleeved commander deck. It is single sleeved and that, yeah, that does actually fit in there, so good to know. So yes, they've actually got these the right size for sleeving. I don't know how long the actual deck box would last. It's pretty flimsy plastic, but it's good for storage. Okay, I think we've seen this sort of thing before. So you've got the numbers from, was it 10 to 20 probably, or 1 to 20, 1 to 19 on one side, and then, yeah, 40 down to 21 on the other. Is that 20? Yeah, sorry, 1 to 20. 1 to 20 and then 40 to 21. Okay. That off to one side. Let's have a quick look at the Learn to Play Commander. Slightly different insert than I've seen before. Let me just zoom this out so you can see what's going on. Okay, so there we go. Commander is a free-for-all magic game that uses additional magic rules. My understanding is that these decks are sort of targeted towards beginner commander players. So it'd be interesting to see what power-wise, what sort of cards we get in here. But you can see there's a brief explanation of, you start off with 40 life. If your commander deals 21 damage, combat damage or more to any one player throughout the game, that player loses. Your commander starts in the command zone. You can cast your commander from the command zone. You may return your commander to the command zone if it leaves the battlefield. And then there's a quick biog there of Oban, Maldire and Sester. And they've got an advert for those fancy new set boosters. Okay. Of which I will probably not be buying. Okay. Zoom this in, start going through here, see what sort of commander staples we might have, and see how it fits in with this obvious land matters theme. Yeah. Okay, so we have one foil in here, which is the commander. I'm not sure, and we'll start looking through whether if they bothered to have like alternate commanders. If you know the regular commander product that comes out, 4 to 5 decks each year. They slightly moved it this year to earlier on in the year. But when those decks came out, same as with previous years, for the actual commander decks, they always have a main commander and then two other commanders, or if they're doing partner commanders, then technically 4 commanders there. So with this, it'll be interesting to see whether you just have it's a single themed deck with no alternate on colour legends, but there may well be other legends in here. So Obun, Maldire and Sester, 1 red, green, white for a 3/3 legendary creature, elf spirit. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 1 target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn. Where X is Obun's power, it's still a land. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Okay, so I'm going to put that off to one side for a reason, because when you're dealing with a large stack like this on camera, sometimes the card you're looking at will go out of focus as the size of the stack changes when we've got them off to the side here. So I'm going to just try and focus in on the card I'm talking about. Okay, Abzan Falconer, 2 and a white creature, human soldier, outlast, single white tap, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, outlast only as a sorcery. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has flying, and it's a 2/3. So that's an uncommon. We've got Banishing Light in here, so I'll mainly focus on either the cards that have an ability on it, just to refresh it, when it's like a keyword ability, or if they're rare, above rare, so rare or mythic, or anything that I might identify as being possibly new. Again, I've deliberately not looked at any of these, the contents of this deck prior to this, so we'll see how things go. Condemns in the deck, so this looks like these are all our uncommons. We've got Crush Contraband, which is a modal card, so that's 3 and a white instant, choose one or both, exile target artifact, exile target enchantment. Elite Scale Guard, it's got bolster 2 on it, so choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control and put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So clearly we have stuff going on with counters here through the cards, and also the ability on Obun there. Core Cartographer, it's a way of searching out planes in here. Oops. So we got a common. Retreat to Emeria, has landfall on it. Token creation and pump on there. That's modal, so you get to choose one. Acidic slimes in here. Good green staple. Armorcraft Judge, which cares about creatures with +1/+1 on it. Get card draw on that. Beanstalk Giant, which has an adventure on it. So adventure is just a refresh, and in this particular instance on this card you have the cost for the adventure, which is 2 and a green. You have the casting cost of the card itself, which is 6 and a green. So if you to go on an adventure, for 2 and a green, sorcery adventure, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And Beanstalk Giant comes into play as a star where the power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Circultus Root. Okay, so searches out basic lands and or gate cards. Elvish Rejuvenator. Searches out land and the top 5 cards of your library. Embodiment of Insight. Name creatures you control have vigilance. It's got landfall on it as well. And in this case, for landfall trigger, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have target land you control become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until end of turn. It's still a land. Evolution Sage is in here. So that has proliferate whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. It proliferates on counters. Far Wanderings has Threshold on it. So this is an older ability. So if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, instead search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. If you don't have Threshold, then you get to search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle your library. Fertilid's in here. Allows you to play around with +1/+1 counters. Very useful in a counter deck. Harmonise is in here. It's card drawing green. Harrow's also in here. Allows you to search out land. We've got Inspiring Call, which cares about it's card draw, which cares about creatures with +1/+1 counters on them. So you can see various cards here through their abilities of card draw and other things. They're leveraging the counter theme in the deck. Keeper of Fables. Some more card draw. Colony Heart Expedition. Okay, so this was from the original Zendikar block. It's got landfall on it. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a quest counter on Colony Heart Expedition. Remove those counters, 3 of them. Sacrifice it and search your library for 2 basic land cards and then put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Kodama's Reach with different artwork than other Kodama's Reach I've seen. So that's a staple in green. Retreat to Kazundu. It's got landfall and it's a modal spell. Satya Wayfinder, another way of searching out lands. Spore Mound. Cares about lands. A landfall triggers the creation of green sapling creature tokens. Spring Bloom Druid. When that enters the battlefield, you can sack a land. If you do, search your library up for 2 basic land cards. So you can see here getting heavy with the landfall theme in terms of trying to get out lands to trigger other cards which have landfall on them. Another card that cares about +1/+1 counters, doing that through the Outlast ability. Yavimaya Elder, another green staple. terms of getting land out there. Zendikar's Royal, another landfall card that will create tokens when it triggers. Trove Warden. So we're moving on to I think our first rare here. So Trove Warden is a 2 and 2 white creature cat beast. It's a 3/4 with vigilance and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, exile target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. When Trove Warden dies, put each permanent card exiled with it onto the battlefield under the control of that card's owner. Geode Rager, 4 and 2 red creature elemental with first strike and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, goad each creature target player controls until your next turn. Those creatures attack each combat if able and attack a player other than you if able. And that's a 4/3 creature elemental. Admonition Angel, 3 and 3 white 6/6 creature angel with flying and landfall. So whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, you may exile target non-land permanent other than Admonition Angel. When Admonition Angel leaves the battlefield, return all cards exiled with it to the battlefield under their owner's control. Emiria Angel, 2 and 2 white with flying and landfall. It's a 3/3. Landfall ability. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. Emiria Shepherd, 5 and 2 white creature angel, 4/4 with flying. Landfall here triggers whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If that land is a plains, you may return that non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead. Hour of Revelation, 3 and 3 white sorcery. This spell costs 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. Destroy all non-land permanents. Planar Outburst, 3 and 2 white sorcery. Destroy all non-land creatures. Awaken 4. So for 5 and 3 white, if you cast this spell for 5 and 3 white, also put 4 +1/+1 counters on target land you control, and it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. Good old Sun Titan is in the deck, seeing as we're playing white. 4 and 2 white, 6/6 vigilance. Whenever Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Together Forever, 2 white enchantment. Whenever Together Forever enters the battlefield, support 2. So you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. For cost of 1, choose target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. Abundance, 2 and 2 green enchantment. Cares about card draw. So if you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land and reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand and put all other cards revealed this way on the bottom of your library in any order. So we have a Saga in here, Mending of Dominaria. As this Saga enters and after your draw step, add a law counter, sacrifice after 3. So, with 1 law counter, mill 2 cards, then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and that's for 1 or 2 law counters. And when you get 3 on there, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, then shuffle your graveyard into your library. So we have a mono green legendary creature in here. Multani Yavimai's Avatar, 4 and 2 green. Legendary creature, elemental avatar. It's at mythic rarity in this deck. Reach and Trample. Multani Yavimai's Avatar gets +1/+1 for each land you control and each land card in your graveyard. 1 and a green, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hands. Return Multani from your graveyard to your hand. And this is renewals in here. 5 and a green sorcery. Search your library for up to 3 basic land cards. Put them onto the battlefield. Tapped, then shuffle your library. You gain 7 life. Rampaging Baloths. 4 and 2 green, trample with landfall. It's a 6/6. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Return of the Wild Speaker. 4 and a green instant. It's modal, so you get to choose one of these. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or a non-human creature you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Rites of Flourishing is in here. 2 and a green. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. Sylvan Advocate's in here. 1 and a green creature elf druid ally with vigilance. As long as you control 6 or more lands, Sylvan Advocate and land creatures you control get +2/+2. Walker of the Wilds. 2 and 2 green, 3/3 creature Merfolk Shaman with X and 2 green. Put X +1/+1 counters on target land you control. That land becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. Living Twister. 2 red and a green. Creature elemental. It's a 2/5. So a couple of activated abilities here. So the red one is 1 and a red. Discard a land card. Living Twister deals 2 damage to any target. And the green one, return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand. And you'll notice here there's no tap on here. So you can actually trigger that multiple times if you have enough of the relevant colour mana. Both of those colours. Okay, so we have another legendary creature in here. Mina and Dean Wildborn, 2 red-green legendary creature elf ally. You may pay an additional land on each of your turns. It's 4/4. Red and a green, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. Okay, there's Omnath in here. This is a cool red-green card. So it's 3, 2 red, 2 green. Omnath, Locus of Rage. Legendary creature elemental. It's a 5/5 with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token. Whenever Omnath, Locus of Rage, or another elemental you control dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to any target, and that's a mythic rarity in this deck. Okay, so now we move on to, it'd be interesting to see whether we have many artifacts. We have a Seer's Sundial, so 4 to cast artifact with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. And we go straight into some non-basics here. So we have Needle Spirals in here at rare. That enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for red or white. And there's an additional ability, 2 red white. Needle Spirals becomes a 2/1 red and white elemental creature with double strike until end of turn. It is still a land. Let me just straighten that up on the camera. Okay, that's interesting what they've done there. It's just on its own. So we haven't quite reached the land yet. We've got Ground Assault. It's a red-green sorcery. Deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. Okay, I wonder if they were going to do some of this. So we've got Naya's Charm, which is the charm for red, green, white. There was a cycle of these in the original Shards block. So the Naya one, it's an instant. You get to choose one. So again, it's modal. Naya Charm deals 3 damage to target creature, or return target creature from a graveyard to its owner's hand, or tap all creatures target player controls. Struggle and Survive. So 2 in a red instant. Struggle deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. And the Survive portion. So cast this spell only from your graveyard, then exile it. Each player shuffles their graveyard into their library, and that's 1 and a green. Sylvan Reclamations in the deck, so it's 3 green, white instant, and you get to exile up to 2 target artifacts under enchantments, and it has basic land cycling for 2 on it. Treacherous Terrain, another card with basic land cycling, deals damage to each opponent equal to its number of lands that a player controls. So with the land cycling here, you can see you've got a casting cost of 6 red green sorcery, so you get the spell there, but you could choose to just pay 2 and discard the card, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Land cycling really fulfills 2 purposes in this deck. One is, by its very nature, you're going to trigger landfall when that basic land card comes into play, but also it enables you to, if you don't want this particular card, then you're also sort of getting rid of it and you're replacing it with, in this case, a land. You often see this on there's some creatures in Magic which have like land cycling on them. So we've got Arcane Signet in here, which is always a welcome addition to Commander deck. 2 to cast, tap, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Sandstone Oracle, 7 to cast, 4/4 Sphinx, but in some ways we're more interested in the ability here. So when Sandstone Oracle enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. Scare Tiller, another modal card, for 1/4 creature artifact Scarecrow. And its ability, when it becomes tapped, choose 1. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Return a target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Oh, good old Soul Ring. 1 to cast, add 2 colourless to your mana. 2 colourless mana. Okay, so I think this is now the actual land section. So we got our first, our second non-basic land, because we had one earlier. So Blighted Woodland, tap, add colourless, 3 and a green, tap, sacrifice Blighted Woodland, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Got Boros Garrison, so no surprise in a lot of these Commander precons. I think pretty much if it's a 2 colour or more deck, then they're going to stick in the original Ravnica lands. So these came into play tapped. These come into play tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you also have to return a land you control, although it doesn't specify whether it's basic or non-basic, which is always really handy. So you can bounce if you happen, just talking broadly here, if you happen to have like a utility land which triggers when it comes into play, they're often popular lands to bounce if that's the way you've designed or modified a commander deck. Once it does untap, you get to tap it for red and a white. We've got Guildgate in here, the red-white one, which is Boros. Command Towers in the deck. Add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Cryptic Caves adds colourless. It also has ability, so 1 colourless mana, 1 mana of any colour, should I say. Tap, sacrifice Cryptic Caves, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. Evolving Wilds is in here. Great card for searching out basic lands. There's the Gruul Guildgate, so the red-green one. Got Gruul Turf, so that's original Ravnica. Bounce land in red-green. Jungle Shrine, so no surprise to see one of the 3 colour cycle, one of the 3 colour lands. Red, green, white. Croson Verge, so it enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap to add colourless and 2 tap, Sacrifice Crows and Verge, search your library for a forest card and a plains card, then put them onto the battlefield. Tap, then shuffle your library. Myriad Landscape, enter the battlefield. Tap to add colourless. 2 mana any colour. Tap, sacrifice Myriad Landscape, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield. Tap, then shuffle your library. So no surprise to see these fetch lands that also can tap for colourless. So they're going to be great in this landfall deck. Oh, I wondered about this. So we've got the Naya Panorama. So tap, add colourless mana, and for 1 mana any colour, you tap it, sacrifice it, search your plains for basic mountain forest, or search your library, for a basic mountain forest or plains card, and put it onto the library tapped. That's another cycle that comes from the Shards block, Shards of Alara block. Oh look, and we have the green-white Guildgate, the green-white Selesnya Sanctuary, which was from the original Ravnica block, Terramorphic Expanse, another card, no surprise. It's basically the same card as Evolving Wilds. I'm trying to think what came first. I think they printed Terramorphic Expanse first, and then Evolving Wilds is a functional reprint of that, but I just can't remember the order. Roiling Regrowth, it's an instant, 2 and a green, sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, then put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Maraza Root Grazer, okay, green-white creature beast with vigilance. Tap, you may put a basic land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Tap, return target basic land you control to its owner's hand. It's a 2/3. And now we move on to the actual basic lands. So let's have a look. So we've got our plains first, and it does look like the artwork's all the same. It's red. We will just check. I'm pretty sure it is for each colour. They've just chosen to use a single piece of artwork, and this looks like it's actually the Zendikar Rising artwork from what I remember from last week. Yep, so we move on to forests. Now we just check through and just make sure there's nothing lurking in here, rather than just assume that they're all the same. It does seem a rather lot of forest if there is, but oh, hang on, we've got something else at the back here lurking. Yeah, so that looks like that's all our deck done now, and now we have the, was it 10 tokens, I think. So we've got a core allied token. Let's just check the other side. Oh yeah, so these are two-sided. So there's a bird on the other side, core ally bird. Yep, so those first 3 are the same. Got elemental here, because something was generating elemental tokens. So that's a 2/2 on one side and a 5/5 on the other. I suspect these are going to be the same. Yeah, and if you remember, something was generating sapling tokens. So sapling on one side and a beast on the other. Sapling and a beast. Yeah, these look like these will also be the same. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and so we got one of these little turn instruction cards if you're not quite sure how a turn works in Magic, and then on the other side the popular format. We've seen that in pretty much all the decks. So there we have it. I think you've enjoyed that. That was an interesting deck to look at. Obviously we had a number of usual suspects in there. Cards that do tend to crop up in commander decks, and that's always, that's a good thing. It's nice to see those, particularly if this is the first deck that people have bought, the commander deck. It gives them those staples. It was nice to see actually there were, and I wasn't expecting there to be alternate commanders. I just thought there would be a single one, but what was nice to see was other legends in here which would allow you to go off in different colour combinations there and start building other decks. Obviously you'd have to acquire a number of on colour cards to have enough, but you know, we saw there was a mono green legend in here. We had some red greens as well, so it's always nice that they put those in, so you've got somewhere to take your decks. So anyway, that was the Ubun Maul Dire Ancestor decks, 1 red, green, white, legendary creature, elf spirit. I hope you've enjoyed this. Next week we'll take a look at the Sneak Attack deck, which is the blue black deck, and then after that we'll be into Commander Legends territory, hopefully, you know, either the following week or the week after that. I'm going to try and see if I can get hold of I did notice there's like a pre-release style product that they're releasing, so I'm going to see if I can get hold of any of those from a local store maybe, and see what. I can't promise anything, and I know quite a lot of the viewers here like some of the old school deck building videos that I used to do, so yeah, it'd be interesting to try and get hold of that product, and actually, you know, build a sealed deck version of a commander deck. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.